They say an Omega's body can withstand anything, but their heart breaks only once. Sarah Nightshade stood in the center of the Great Hall, and she was dying.
Stay
Not
with
the
me.
quick death
Don't
of
look
a
at them.
blade or the
They're
merciful
everywhere.
death
What do we
of
do?
poison.
Trust me. We
This
have
was
to
the
move
slow
now.
death of 1,000 cuts. Each whisper from the crowd another slice. Each disgusted look another wound. The weight of 300 wolves
We
staring
gather
at
as
her
one,
with hatred in their eyes.
bound by
She tried to
fate
stand
and the
straight,
dim shadows.
tried to lift her chin the way her mother had taught her before the fever took her, before Sarah became nobody, before she became the girl who scrubbed floors and served wine and loved a boy who promised her the world. But her legs wouldn't cooperate. The pain in her left thigh pulsed with every heartbeat, a deep bruise that spread from hip to knee, black and purple and yellow at the edges. The kind of bruise that came from a boot. From Enforcegaric's boot, to be precise, 3 days ago when they dragged her to the basement cells. Her ribs screamed with each shallow breath. Fractured, both of them. She could feel the edges grinding together when she moved. Judge Calloway stood on the raised platform, his withered face twisted in disgust. He held a scroll. Evidence. Testimony. A vial of wolfsbane that she had never seen before in her life. The words blurred together. Attempted regicide, conspiracy, jealousy. Sarah's vision swam. When had she last eaten 3 days ago? The basement cells didn't come with meal service. Just cold concrete and the drip of water somewhere in the darkness and the sound of her own crying until she had no tears left. She looked up at the platform, at the leadership table where the future of Silver Moon Pack would be decided. Marcus sat there. Marcus Ashford, 25 years old, Alpha heir, the boy she had loved since she was 16. The man who had kissed her under the willow tree by the creek and promised that once he took his father's title, everything would change. He would claim her. He would make her his mate. He would stand before the entire pack and say she was his. He wasn't looking at her now. Next to him sat Vivian Cross, 24 years old, Alpha's daughter from the Southern Isles. Beautiful in the way that made other women feel small, pale skin like porcelain, dark hair that cascaded in perfect waves. A white dress that caught the light and made her look like an angel. She was dabbing her eyes with a silk handkerchief, playing the victim, playing it perfectly. Sarah's knees buckled. The floor rushed up to meet her. She braced for impact, for the final humiliation of collapsing in front of everyone who had already decided she was guilty. The floor never came. Instead, there was darkness. And in that darkness, a memory. 72 hours earlier, when the world still made sense. October 12th had started as the best day of Sarah's life. The Great Hall looked different then. Decorated for celebration instead of judgment. White roses everywhere. Candles and glass hurricanes. Long tables covered in cream linen, groaning under the weight of roasted meats and fresh bread and pies made from the last of the autumn apples. It was Marcus's succession celebration. In 1 week, he would take the Alpha oath from his father. In 1 week, everything would change. Sarah moved through the crowd with a tray of wine glasses. She wore the gray uniform of the service staff. Simple. Invisible. She didn't mind, not tonight, because Marcus had found her in the kitchen an hour before the guests arrived, pulled her into the pantry and kissed her until she forgot her own name. 1 more week, he had whispered against her mouth. 1 more week and I tell them all, I don't care what father says. I don't care about politics. You're mine, Sarah. You've always been mine. She believed him. She served the wine with a smile she couldn't quite hide. The guests didn't notice her. They never did. Omegas were part of the furniture, useful but unremarkable. Until Vivian Cross arrived. Sarah noticed her immediately. Everyone did. Vivian entered on the arm of her father, Alpha Cross of the Southern Isles. A political visit, an alliance discussion. These things happened all the time in the pack world. But the way Marcus stood when he saw her, the way his whole body went rigid, the way he smoothed his jacket and ran a hand through his dark hair. Sarah's stomach twisted. She told herself it meant nothing. Marcus was going to be Alpha. He had to be diplomatic, charming. That was all this was. She poured wine into crystal glasses, smiled at the guests, pretended her hands weren't shaking. The dinner progressed. Speeches were made. Marcus's father, Alpha Garrett Ashford, stood and raised his glass. To my son, he said, the future of Silver Moon Pack. May his leadership bring us prosperity and strength. Everyone drank, except Vivian. Sarah was across the room when it happened. She saw Vivian raise the glass to her lips, saw her take one delicate sip, saw her eyes go wide. Then Vivian's hand flew to her throat. The glass fell from her fingers. Crystal shattered on the stone floor. Wine spread across the white tablecloth like blood. Vivian made a choking sound. Her throat was swelling. Purple veins bulged against her pale skin, a grotesque pattern spreading up her neck and across her jaw. Someone screamed. Alpha Cross caught his daughter as she collapsed. Poison! Someone's poisoned her. The room erupted into chaos. Sarah stood frozen. The empty wine bottle was still in her hands. The bottle she had just opened. The bottle she had poured from. Officer Briggs, head of pack security, appeared at her elbow. His face was hard, unfriendly. This was the same man who had given her peppermints when she was a child, who had taught her to skip stones on the creek. He looked at her like she was a stranger now. "Don't move," he said. The pack doctor rushed to Vivian's side. Someone was shouting for herbs, for antidotes, for anything that might counteract wolfsbane. Wolfsbane, the word rippled through the crowd like a curse. Sarah's voice came out small, broken. I would never. But no one was listening. Marcus pushed through the crowd. For one moment, one beautiful moment, Sarah thought he was coming to her, to defend her, to tell them all there had been a mistake. He went to Vivian instead. He knelt beside her convulsing body, took her hand. His face was pale with horror. "Get the medics," he ordered. "Now, and someone find out where that wine came from." Officer Briggs' hand closed around Sarah's arm. "She poured it. I saw her." Marcus looked up then. His eyes met Sarah's across the chaos. She tried to read his expression, tried to find the boy who had kissed her in the pantry, who had promised her everything. His eyes were cold, empty. "Take her to the holding cells," he said. And just like that, Sarah's world ended. The basement of the pack house wasn't designed for comfort. Sarah sat in the corner of her cell, knees pulled to her chest. The cold seeped up through the concrete floor and into her bones. Her thin gray dress offered no protection, no warmth. Her hands were covered in dried dirt and blood, not hers. From when she had grabbed Briggs's arm, begging him to believe her. He had shaken her off hard enough that she'd fallen. Her palms had scraped against the stone floor. She stared at the stains now. Tried to remember if she had washed her hands between serving the wine and being arrested. She couldn't remember. Everything was a blur. The cell had no windows, no way to tell if it was day or night. Time became meaningless, measured only by the drip of water from a pipe somewhere in the darkness. Drip, drip, drip. She tried to sleep, couldn't. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Vivian's throat swelling. Heard Marcus's voice. "Take her to the holding cells." Footsteps echoed in the corridor. Sarah's head snapped up. Hope flared in her chest, desperate and painful. Marcus. It had to be Marcus. He would come. He would apologize. He would tell her there had been a terrible mistake, and of course he believed her, and everything would be okay. The footsteps stopped in front of her cell. It wasn't Marcus. Enforcer Garrick stood on the other side of the bars. Big, brutal. He had the kind of face that enjoyed causing pain. "Get up," he said. Sarah's voice was hoarse from crying. "I need to see Marcus. Please, I need to talk to him." Garrick laughed, a harsh sound that echoed off the stone walls. "Alpha Air is with his future mate, praying she wakes up." Future mate, the words hit Sarah like a physical blow. "I didn't do it," she whispered. "You have to believe me. I would never hurt anyone. I've known you since I was a pup. I used to help your wife in the gardens, please." Garrick unlocked the cell door. "The evidence says different. We found the vial in your room, under your mattress." Sarah blinked. "What vial? I've never—" But Garrick wasn't listening. He grabbed her arm and yanked her to her feet. Her injured leg gave out immediately. The bruise he had given her during the initial interrogation. When he had asked her where she got the wolfsbane, and she had said she didn't know, and he had kicked her. She stumbled, tried to catch herself on the wall. Garrick watched her struggle, made no move to help. "Walk," he said. "Tribunal wants to question you." The interrogation room was small, windowless, a single metal chair bolted to the floor. Someone had cleaned it recently. It smelled like bleach and fear. They asked her the same questions over and over. "Where did you get the wolfsbane?" "I didn't get any wolfsbane." "Why did you want to kill Vivian Cross?" "I didn't want to kill anyone." "Did you act alone?" "I didn't act at all." Around and around. Her answers never changed. Their expressions never softened. Officer Briggs brought her a glass of water, set it on the table in front of her. "Drink," he said, not unkind. "It'll help with the nerves." Sarah was so thirsty. Her throat felt like sandpaper. She reached for the glass with shaking hands. Drank it all. The water tasted slightly bitter. She assumed it was from the pipes. Old buildings had old plumbing. She didn't know, couldn't have known, that in 2 days Dr. Thorne would find traces of Veritas serum in her bloodstream. Truth serum. The cheap kind that didn't make you tell the truth so much as make you confused, compliant, foggy. She just knew that after she drank the water, everything got harder to remember. On the second day Marcus came, Sarah was lying on the concrete floor when she heard his voice in the corridor. She scrambled to her feet, ignored the screaming pain in her ribs, pressed herself against the bars. Marcus, Marcus, please. He appeared like a ghost, backlit by the fluorescent lights of the hallway. He stood just out of reach, far enough that she couldn't touch him. He looked terrible, dark circles under his eyes, his shirt wrinkled, hair uncombed. Did you do it? He asked, his voice flat, empty. Sarah's heart broke all over again. How can you even ask me that? You know me. You know I would never. Do I? Marcus stepped closer, close enough that she could see the gold flecks in his brown eyes, the same eyes that had looked at her with love just 3 days ago. I thought I knew you. I thought you were gentle, kind. But the evidence, it's not mine, Marcus. Someone planted that vial. Someone is trying to frame me, please. You have to believe me. He looked at her for a long moment. She could see the war behind his eyes. The boy who loved her fighting with the alpha he was supposed to become. The Alpha One. Father says if Vivian dies, the Southern Isles will demand justice. Blood for blood. War, maybe. He ran a hand through his hair. They found wolfsbane under your mattress, Sarah. Concentrated, enough to kill a dozen wolves. I've never even seen wolfsbane, Marcus. I swear on the moon goddess I didn't do this. But even as she said it, doubt crept in. The water Briggs gave her, the fog in her mind. What if she had done something and couldn't remember? What if... No, that was insane. She knew herself. She knew her heart. I loved you, she whispered. I still love you. Doesn't that mean anything? Marcus's jaw tightened. For a moment, she thought she saw pain flash across his face, regret. Then it was gone. The tribunal is in 2 days, he said. If you're innocent, the truth will come out. He turned to leave. Marcus, wait. Please don't go. Don't leave me here. I'm scared. I'm so scared. He paused, didn't turn around. I'm sorry, Sarah, he said quietly, but I can't help you. His footsteps echoed down the corridor, growing fainter, fainter. Gone. Sarah sank to the floor, wrapped her arms around her knees, and finally understood that the boy who had promised her the world wasn't coming back. The bond between them, that golden thread she had felt since the day she turned 18 and realized Marcus was her fated mate. It was withering, dying. He was blocking her out, rejecting the connection without even severing it officially, leaving her in limbo, alone. On the morning of the trial, Briggs brought her another glass of water. Drink up, he said. Big day. You'll need your strength. Sarah didn't want to drink it, but she was so thirsty, her mouth so dry, and what did it matter anymore? She drank. The fog rolled in thicker than before. October 14th, the day that would end with an Alpha King catching a falling Omega and the world tilting on its axis. But first, the trial. The Great Hall had been transformed. The celebration decorations were gone, replaced with the cold formality of justice. A raised platform at the front where the tribunal sat. 3 elders from neighboring packs brought in to serve as impartial judges. Theoretically impartial anyway. To their right, the leadership table. Alpha Garrett Ashford in the center, Marcus beside him, rigid and expressionless. And next to Marcus, miraculously recovered enough to attend Vivian Cross. She wore pale blue, delicate, fragile. She had a silk handkerchief pressed to her mouth. Every few minutes she would touch her throat as if the memory of pain still lingered there. The performance was Oscar-worthy. Wooden bleachers lined the walls packed with 300 wolves. Pack members, visitors, anyone who wanted to see the poisoner brought to justice. They didn't let Sarah shower before the trial. Didn't give her clean clothes. She stood in the center of the room in the same torn gray dress she'd been arrested in. Dirt under her fingernails, hair matted, bruises visible on her arms and legs. She looked guilty. That was the point. The whispers started the moment they brought her in. Look at her. She looks like a criminal. Poor Vivian, such a sweet girl. I always knew there was something wrong with that Omega. Sarah tried to block out the voices, tried to focus on staying upright. Her legs trembled. The room tilted slightly. The fog in her mind made everything feel distant, unreal. Judge Calloway stood, ancient, withered, his voice carried despite his age. Sarah Nightshade, he intoned, you stand accused of attempted regicide and the poisoning of a high-ranking guest. How do you plead? Sarah tried to straighten her spine. A sharp pain lanced through her broken ribs, stole her breath. Black spots danced at the edges of her vision. Innocent, she managed. The word came out as barely a whisper. Speak up, Calloway commanded. She forced air into her damaged lungs. Innocent. The effort made her cough. Violently, she tasted copper. Blood. Calloway gestured to a clerk who began reading from a file. The tribunal has reviewed the evidence. A vial of concentrated wolfsbane was discovered in the accused's personal quarters, hidden beneath her mattress. Multiple witnesses placed the accused as the last person to handle the wineglass consumed by Miss Vivian Cross. The accused had motive, means, and opportunity. I didn't do it, Sarah said, but her voice was so small now, so weak. I would never hurt the pack. Calloway looked at her over his reading glasses. The evidence suggests otherwise. We have testimony from the kitchen staff. We have the physical evidence of the poison. And we have motive. He gestured toward Marcus. Jealousy. You believed yourself entitled to the alpha heir's affection. When a more suitable match presented itself, you sought to eliminate your rival. The room spun. Sarah looked at Marcus, tried to catch his eye, tried to make him see her. Really see her. Please, she thought, please look at me. You know I didn't do this. You know me, Marcus lifted his head. Their eyes met. For one heartbeat, she thought she saw regret there. Pain. The ghost of the boy who had loved her. Then he stood. The room went silent. Marcus cleared his throat. When he spoke, his voice carried to every corner of the hall. Strong, clear, the voice of an alpha. I defended Sarah for years, he said. I protected her because I believed she was kind, gentle, someone who would never harm another soul. Sarah's hope flickered. Maybe. Maybe he was going to save her after all. Maybe. But the evidence is overwhelming. Marcus's hands clenched into fists at his sides. And I cannot let personal feelings cloud my judgment. Not when the safety of our pack is at stake. Not when an innocent woman nearly died. He turned to look directly at Sarah. I'm sorry, he said, but I have to put the pack first. Then he did the worst thing possible. He reached for Vivian's hand, helped her stand, pulled her close to his side. Vivian Cross is my future mate, Marcus announced to the assembled crowd, and I will see justice done for the crime committed against her. Mate, the word detonated in Sarah's chest like a bomb. He had chosen. Not her. Never her. He had chosen the Alpha's daughter. The political alliance. The safe choice. And Sarah was nothing. Had always been nothing. The bond in her chest already weakened, splintered. The golden thread frayed and snapped. Marcus had chosen, and his choice severed the last connection between them. Sarah's legs gave out. The room tilted. Faces in the crowd blurred into a watercolor of angry expressions and disgust. The floor rushed up to meet her. She was falling. And in that moment of suspension, floating between consciousness and darkness, a single thought crystallized in her mind. No one is going to catch me. She was wrong. The heavy oak doors at the back of the great hall exploded inward. Not opened, not pushed. Exploded. The sound echoed like a thunderclap, shaking the floorboards and rattling the crystal in the chandeliers. Silence fell, absolute and immediate. Every head in the room turned toward the entrance. 300 wolves moving in unison like a flock of startled birds. A man stood in the archway. He was tall, well over 6'4", broad shoulders that filled the doorway. He wore a long black tactical coat that looked more military than formal, tailored perfectly to his frame. His hair was dark, shot through with silver at the temples. His face was all sharp angles and brutal beauty, the kind of face that belonged on ancient coins, on statues of warrior gods. But it was his eyes that made the room collectively hold its breath. Amber, the color of aged whiskey backlit by fire. Predator eyes, ancient eyes, eyes that had seen too much and forgotten nothing. Behind him stood 6 enforcers, all wearing the insignia of a black wolf silhouetted against a blood moon, the mark of the Northern Territories, the mark of the Alpha King. Alpha Garrett was the first to recover his voice. He stood so quickly his chair clattered backward. King Stormcrest, he stammered. His face had gone pale. We weren't expecting you. This is a local tribunal. Pack business, not a matter for the crown. Ronan Stormcrest didn't answer, didn't even look at Garrett. His amber eyes were locked on the center of the room, on the small figure in the torn gray dress. On Sarah Nightshade falling, time seemed to slow. Sarah saw him in fragments. The stranger in the doorway. The way he moved, not walking but stalking like a wolf on the hunt. The way the crowd parted for him without conscious thought, instinct overriding everything else. Get out of the Alpha King's way. She saw the moment his eyes found hers. saw something flash across his expression. Recognition. No, that didn't make sense. She had never met the king of the Northern Territories, had never even seen him except in newspaper photographs. Her knees buckled completely. The world tilted 90 degrees. The stone floor rushed toward her face. She never hit it. One second she was falling, the next she was suspended in midair. Strong arms had caught her. One massive arm scooped under her knees, the other supported her back. She was pulled against a broad chest that smelled like rain and pine and something metallic, like the air before a lightning storm. Sarah's head lolled back against his shoulder. Through her fading consciousness, she looked up. Ronan Stormcrest was looking down at her. His face was a mask of carefully controlled fury, not at her, for her. The entire hall erupted in gasps, whispers, shock rippling through the crowd like electricity. An Alpha King, touching an accused traitor, an Omega accused of attempted murder. It was unthinkable. She's burning up, Ronan growled. His voice was a low rumble that vibrated through Sarah's chest, through her bones. The kind of voice that commanded armies, that could bring kingdoms to their knees. He looked up at the tribunal, at Marcus. His eyes had gone from amber to molten gold. When an alpha's eyes glowed, it meant their wolf was at the surface. It meant danger. She fainted from guilt. Vivian's shrill voice cut through the tension. She had jumped to her feet, one hand pressed dramatically to her chest. Can't you see she knows what she's done? Silence. The single word carried the weight of absolute authority, alpha command, so potent that half the room instinctively bared their necks in submission. Vivian's mouth snapped shut. Her face went white with terror. Ronan adjusted Sarah's weight in his arms, pulling her more securely against his chest. He saw the bruises on her arms now, the unnatural angle of her ribs beneath the thin fabric of her dress, the way her skin was gray with fever and dehydration and trauma. This trial is a farce, he announced, his voice carried to every corner of the silent hall. This woman has been tortured. Look at her. Bruises, broken bones, starvation. He turned his gaze on Alpha Garrett. This violates the 1994 Pact Treaty regarding prisoner welfare. You know the law, or have the Pacts forgotten that I am the one who enforces it? Garrett's face flushed red. She is a criminal within my borders. I have the right to question her, to hold her until trial. You have the right to hold her, Ronan agreed. His voice had dropped to a lethal whisper, somehow more terrifying than a shout. But you do not have the right to break her before the verdict. You do not have the right to torture a confession from an Omega who can barely stand. Marcus stepped forward, trying to assert authority he didn't yet have. With respect, King Stormcrest, this doesn't concern you. Pack justice is pack justice. Ronan's laugh was harsh, cold done. This isn't justice. This is a lynching, dressed up in legal theater. He turned his back on the tribunal, on Marcus, on all of them. Looked down at Sarah, whose eyes were fluttering closed, her breathing shallow and rapid. She was seconds from losing consciousness completely. I am invoking the king's privilege, Ronan stated. Not a request, a declaration. This wolf is now under my direct jurisdiction. The trial will continue only when she is medically fit to stand. Until then, she comes with me. Marcus's voice rose in protest. You can't just take her. She belongs to Silver Moon Pack. We have the right to. Ronan paused mid-step. He didn't turn around, didn't need to. The threat in his stillness was eloquent. Touch me, boy, he said softly, and your pack will need a new heir by sundown. Marcus froze. His hand, which had been reaching toward Ronan's arm, dropped to his side. He was 25 years old and training to be Alpha. But Ronan Stormcrest was the Alpha King, ruler of the Northern Territories, commander of the most lethal fighting force in the wolf world. There was no contest. Sarah felt consciousness slipping away like water through her fingers. The last thing she registered were the feel of the tactical coat rough against her cheek, the steady rhythm of Ronan's heartbeat beneath her ear. Strong, reliable, alive. And his voice, barely a whisper, meant only for her. I've got you, little wolf. You're safe now. Then the darkness took her, and for the first time in 3 days, Sarah Nightshade felt something other than terror. She felt hope. Consciousness returned slowly, in pieces. First sensation, softness beneath her. Nothing like the concrete floor of the cell. This was a mattress, a real mattress, with sheets that felt like liquid silk against her skin. Then smell, clean linen, a hint of cedar. Something medicinal but not unpleasant. Finally sound, the quiet beep of medical equipment, voices murmuring somewhere distant, and birdsong, actual birds singing outside an actual window. Sarah's eyes flew open. She found herself staring at an unfamiliar ceiling. High, coffered, painted a soft gray blue. Recessed lighting that glowed warm instead of harsh. This wasn't the pack house. Wasn't anywhere she recognized. Panic clawed up her throat. She tried to sit up, to escape, to run. Pain exploded through her ribs, white hot and blinding. A strangled gasp escaped her lips. Easy, a deep voice from across the room. Calm, gentle. You'll tear the sutures. Dr. Thorne just finished putting you back together. I'd rather you didn't undo his work. Sarah's head whipped toward the voice. Immediately regretted it when the room spun. Sitting in a leather armchair by the floor-to-ceiling windows was Ronan Stormcrest. He looked different in natural light. Less like a warrior god and more like a man. He had discarded the tactical coat. Wore only a black dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows. Revealing forearms corded with muscle and marked with the silvery white scars of old battles. He was reading a file, medical charts from the look of it. He glanced up when she moved amber eyes assessing. Then he set the file aside and stood. "Where am I?" Sarah's voice came out as a croak. Her throat was dry, raw. "My home." Ronan moved to a side table, poured water from a crystal pitcher into a glass. "The Stormcrest Estate, Northern Territories, about 200 miles from Silvermoon." He crossed to the bed, held out the glass. Sarah stared at it like it might bite her. "It's just water," Ronan said, a hint of dry humor in his voice. "No sedatives, no truth serum. I promise." The mention of truth serum made her flinch. How did he know about that? He saw the question in her eyes, answered before she could ask. "Dr. Thorne ran a full toxicology panel when you arrived. Found traces of Veritas serum in your bloodstream. The cheap kind. Someone was dosing you to make you confused during interrogation. To make you look guilty on the stand." Sarah's hands started to shake. The water Briggs had given her. "Both times. It'll help with your nerves." "Drink," Ronan said gently. "Real water this time. You're severely dehydrated." She wanted to refuse. Wanted to maintain some shred of dignity. But her body betrayed her. Her hand reached for the glass of its own accord. Their fingers brushed. The electric shock that passed between them made Sarah gasp, made her nearly drop the glass. It wasn't painful, it was the opposite. Like touching a live wire made of warmth and light and something she couldn't name. Ronan felt it too. His eyes widened fractionally. His whole body went still. They stared at each other for a long moment. The glass of water forgotten between them. Then Ronan carefully withdrew his hand, stepped back, put professional distance between them. "Drink," he repeated, his voice slightly rougher than before. Sarah raised the glass to her lips with trembling hands. The water was cool, clean. The best thing she'd ever tasted. She drained it in 3 long swallows. When she lowered the glass, she found Ronan watching her with an expression she couldn't read. "Why?" The question came out before she could stop it. "Why did you save me? I'm nobody. Just an omega. Just, you are not just anything." Ronan's voice was firm, final. "And you're certainly not nobody." He settled back into the leather chair, gestured to the room around them. "The doctors spent 6 hours fixing what your pack did to you. 2 fractured ribs, hairline fracture in your left tibia, severe dehydration, malnutrition, deep tissue bruising consistent with repeated blunt force trauma." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped together. His amber eyes never left hers. "They starved you, drugged you, beat you, and then paraded you in front of 300 people to make you look like a monster." His jaw clenched. "That's not justice, that's cruelty." Sarah felt tears prick the corners of her eyes. No one had believed her. No one had listened. And now this stranger, this king, was listing her injuries like they mattered, like she mattered. "I didn't do it," she whispered. "I swear I didn't poison Vivian. I don't even know where to get wolfsbane. I would never." "I know." 2 words, simple, certain. Sarah's breath caught. You believe me." "I believe in evidence," Ronan corrected. "I believe in logic. And the logic of this case makes no sense." He picked up the file again, flipped it open. "According to the official timeline, you poured the wine at 7 p.m. Vivian collapsed at 7:15. Exactly 15 minutes later." He looked up. "But the concentration of wolfsbane allegedly found in her system, according to Silvermoon's own medical report, was fast-acting, designed to kill within 3 to 5 minutes of ingestion." Understanding dawned. So if I had poisoned her glass, she would have dropped before the first toast, before anyone even sat down to eat. Ronan closed the file. The timeline is impossible, which means either their medical report is wrong or the poisoning didn't happen the way they claim it did. Hope fluttered in Sarah's chest, fragile as bird wings. But there's another reason I came for you, Ronan continued. He leaned back in his chair, his gaze distant now, remembering something. 3 years ago during the border wars with the rogue packs, my unit was pinned down. We were outnumbered, low on supplies. My beta Cole had taken shrapnel to the leg. We were running out of time. He smiled slightly, a ghost of warmth crossing his severe features. A supply truck from Silvermoon found us. Standard delivery, food, ammunition, medical supplies. But one of the crates was different. Someone had packed extra herbs, rare ones, properly sterilized bandages, antiseptic, everything we needed to save Cole's life. Ronan's amber eyes focused on Sarah again, sharp, intense. The crate was marked with initials, SN. Sarah's hand flew to her mouth. She remembered, 3 years ago, when the news of the border wars reached Silvermoon, how she had stayed up late in the pack house kitchen making extra packages, adding herbs from her secret garden, the one she tended when everyone else was sleeping. She had signed them with her initials, never thought anyone would notice, never thought it mattered. You saved my best friend, Ronan said quietly. You saved him when you didn't have to, when you had no reason to care about some northern wolves bleeding out in a forest. He stood, crossed to the windows, looked out over the mountain landscape. I don't believe in coincidences, Sarah, and I don't believe someone with that much compassion in her heart could turn around and poison an innocent woman. He glanced back at her over his shoulder. So yes, I believe you, and I'm going to prove it. The tears Sarah had been holding back finally spilled over, rolled down her cheeks in hot tracks. No one had believed her. Not Marcus, not the pack, not even herself toward the end. The drugs and the interrogation and the isolation had made her doubt her own mind. But this stranger believed her. This king. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for saving me. Ronan turned from the window. For a moment, something vulnerable flickered across his face. Something almost like pain. You saved Cole. I'm simply returning the favor. A gentle knock at the door interrupted them. An older man entered, 50s, maybe early 60s, and white hair, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He wore a doctor's coat over casual clothes. Ah, she's awake. The man's voice was warm, grandfatherly. Excellent. I'm Dr. Elias Thorne. I've been treating your injuries. He approached the bed with the easy confidence of someone who had spent a lifetime putting broken things back together. How are you feeling pain levels? Sarah considered. Everything hurts, but less than before. Good, good. Dr. Thorne pulled out a tablet, made notes. The accelerated healing treatments are working. We're using light therapy, relatively new technology. Should have you walking without pain in another day or two. He looked up at Ronan. May I speak with you privately? Ronan nodded. I'll be right outside, he said to Sarah. Rest. You're safe here. The two men stepped out into the hallway. The door closed with a soft click. Sarah was alone. She looked around the room with new eyes, really seeing it for the first time. The space was enormous, easily the size of the entire servants' quarters back at Silvermoon. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over snow-capped mountains. The furniture was expensive but comfortable. Lived in. On the nightstand beside her bed, someone had left fresh flowers. Wildflowers like the ones she used to pick by the creek. A lump formed in her throat. She was 200 miles from Silvermoon, in the home of the Alphaking. Injured, accused of a crime she didn't commit. Her life in shambles. But for the first time in days, she didn't feel alone. Outside in the corridor, Ronan leaned against the wall. Dr. Thorne stood beside him, tablet in hand. She's strong, the doctor said. Stronger than she looks. The accelerated healing is taking well. But Ronan? He hesitated. What? Dr. Thorne pulled up a file on his tablet, turned it so Ronan could see. The toxicology report came back with more than just Veritas serum. He highlighted a section. There are traces of a bond suppression compound. Very subtle, designed to weaken mate bonds without severing them completely. Ronan's eyes narrowed. Someone was drugging her to weaken her connection to Marcus Ashford. Exactly, which suggests premeditation. Someone wanted her isolated, vulnerable, unable to call on her mate for help through the bond. Ronan's hands clenched into fists. How long had she been taking it? Based on the levels in her system, at least 2 weeks, possibly longer. 2 weeks before the poisoning, before the arrest. Someone had been planning this for a while. There's something else, Dr. Thorne continued. He swiped to another file. I did a full analysis of the medical reports Silver Moon sent over. The ones describing Vivian Cross's injuries. And the symptoms are inconsistent with wolfsbane poisoning. Heart rate never dropped to lethal levels. Respiratory distress was dramatic but not critical. It looks more like a controlled allergic reaction, possibly peanut derivative or synthetic venom, carefully dosed to appear life-threatening without actually causing permanent damage. The pieces clicked into place in Ronan's mind. She staged it, he said. Vivian Cross staged her own poisoning. That would be my professional opinion, yes. Dr. Thorne closed his tablet. Someone wanted Sarah Nightshade destroyed, and they were willing to go to extraordinary lengths to do it. Ronan looked back at the closed door, at the room where Sarah was resting, healing. Then we're going to find out who, he said quietly, and we're going to make them pay. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. The bed was too soft, the room too quiet. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the trial, heard Marcus's voice. I have to put the pack first. She gave up around midnight, carefully eased herself out of bed. The light therapy had worked wonders. Her ribs still ached, but the sharp stabbing pain had dulled to a manageable throb. She found a robe draped over a chair, soft cashmere, wrapped it around herself, and ventured out into the hallway. The Stormcrest estate was even more impressive at night. Moonlight streamed through tall windows, cast silver shadows across hardwood floors and expensive rugs. Sarah wandered aimlessly, not looking for anything in particular, just needing to move, to prove to herself that she could. She found herself in a library. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined 3 walls. A massive stone fireplace dominated the fourth, leather furniture arranged in intimate groupings. The kind of room designed for reading and thinking and having quiet conversations in the dark. Ronan sat in a chair by the fireplace. He still wore the black dress shirt, though he'd unbuttoned the collar now. A glass of amber liquid sat on the table beside him. Whiskey, probably. He was reading a report, his brow furrowed in concentration. He looked up when she entered, set the report aside immediately. Can't sleep, he asked. Sarah shook her head, felt suddenly self-conscious in the borrowed robe. I hope I'm not disturbing you. Not at all. He gestured to the chair across from him. Please. She settled into the leather, pulled the robe tighter around herself. For a moment, they sat in comfortable silence, the only sound the crackle of logs in the fireplace. Can I ask you something? Sarah said finally. Of course. Why do they call you the weapon of war? Ronan's expression didn't change, but something shifted behind his eyes. That's what I am, or what I was, before. Before what? He was quiet for a long moment, staring into the flames. When he spoke, his voice was distant, remembering. I became Alpha King when I was 17. My mother had just died. Rogue packs killed her during a raid on our northern border. They wanted to destabilize the territories, create chaos. He took a sip of whiskey. I was young, angry, grieving, so I did what I knew how to do. I fought. I hunted down every rogue pack responsible for her death, destroyed them, made examples of them. Let fear do the rest. For the first 5 years of my reign, all I did was fight, war after war, until the other packs learned that crossing into northern territory meant death. He looked at her. That's why they call me a weapon, because for a long time that's all I was. Sarah saw the weight in his eyes, the burden of a crown taken too young, a childhood stolen by violence and duty. You said was, she noted softly. Past tense. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. I'm trying to be something else now. It's harder than it sounds. What do you want to be? The question seemed to surprise him. He considered it, turned the whiskey glass in his hand. A good king, he said finally. Not just a strong one, there's a difference. Sarah understood that. The difference between power and goodness, between strength and compassion. Can I tell you something? She asked. Please. I've been thinking about what you said, about the timeline being wrong, about the evidence not making sense. She pulled her knees up to her chest, wrapped her arms around them. For days I've been going crazy, wondering if maybe I did something and just couldn't remember. If maybe the drugs made me forget. But deep down I knew I didn't do it. She looked up at Ronan. You're the first person who believed me when I said that. Not because you love me or owe me anything, but because you looked at the facts and saw the truth. The truth matters, Ronan said simply. It does, but it's more than that. Sarah's voice grew soft, vulnerable. You made me believe in myself again. In my own mind, my own memory. That's a gift I can never repay. Ronan leaned forward, elbows on his knees, his amber eyes intense in the firelight. You don't owe me anything, Sarah, but I promise you this. We're going to find out who did this to you. We're going to prove your innocence, and we're going to make sure they never hurt you or anyone else again. Why do you care so much? The question escaped before she could stop it. I'm nobody, just an omega from a small pack. You're the Alpha King. You could have anyone, do anything. Why waste your time on me? Ronan was quiet for so long, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he said, because I know what it's like to be alone, to feel like the world has forgotten you exist, except when they need something from you. He met her eyes. And because you're not nobody's Sarah, you never were. Something passed between them in that moment. Understanding, connection, the beginning of something that didn't have a name yet, but felt inevitable. I should let you rest, Ronan said, standing. Dr. Thorne wants you to get at least 8 hours of sleep. Accelerated healing only works if you give your body time to recover. Sarah stood too. They were closer now, close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his amber eyes, could count the silver threads in his dark hair. Thank you, she said, for everything. You don't have to keep thanking me. I know, but I want to. Ronan smiled then, a real smile that transformed his severe features into something warm, almost boyish. Sleep well, little wolf, he said softly. He turned to leave, paused at the door. And Sarah, tomorrow we start fighting back. Tomorrow we get you your life back. After he left, Sarah stood by the fireplace for a long time, watching the flames dance, feeling something inside her that had been dead for days slowly coming back to life. Hope. Tomorrow, Ronan had said. Tomorrow we fight back. And for the first time since this nightmare began, Sarah believed him. She believed they could win. She believed she could be whole again. And maybe, just maybe, she believed that the man who had caught her when she fell might be the one who would help her learn to fly. October 18th arrived with mountain air so crisp it hurt to breathe. Sarah stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows in her room, watching the sun rise over the Northern Territories. 2 days had passed since Ronan carried her out of that courtroom. 2 days of treatments and rest in the slow, painful process of healing. Her ribs no longer screamed with every breath, just whispered. The bruise on her thigh had faded from black to purple to a sickly yellow-green. Dr. Thorne's light therapy was working miracles, but it was the fog lifting from her mind that felt like the real miracle. Without the Veritas serum clouding her thoughts, Sarah could think clearly for the first time in weeks, could remember. The details were sharp now, painful in their clarity. She remembered pouring the wine, remembered turning away to grab the tray of appetizers, remembered the 3-second window when her back was turned. Someone had been there, in the kitchen. She could feel it now, that prickling awareness of being watched. She had dismissed it at the time, too focused on making sure everything was perfect for Marcus's celebration, too blind to see the trap closing around her. A knock at the door pulled her from her thoughts. Come in, she called. Ronan entered. He wore tactical gear today instead of dress clothes. Black cargo pants, a fitted shirt that showed the breadth of his shoulders, boots that looked made for running or fighting or both. He looked like he was preparing for war. Maybe he was. How are you feeling? He asked. Better. Stronger. She turned from the window. Dr. Thorne says I can start moving around more. Light exercise. Walking. Good. Ronan's amber eyes studied her face, looking for signs of pain or weakness. Because we have work to do, are you ready? Was she ready to face the evidence of her own destruction? To see proof of the conspiracy that had torn her life apart? No. She would never be ready for that, but she was willing. Show me, Shra said. The war room was nothing like the formal spaces in the rest of the estate. This was a working room, functional. A massive table dominated the center, its surface a holographic display that could project 3-dimensional maps and files and surveillance footage. Computer terminals lined one wall, screens showing news feeds and security cameras and data streams from across the territories. 2 people waited inside. The first was a man, early 30s with dark hair and a face marked by old scars. A wolf bite on his jaw, faded but permanent. He had the build of a fighter, compact muscle, quick reflexes. When he saw Sarah, his expression softened into something gentle. You must be Sarah, he said. His voice was warm, kind. I'm Cole Ravenscar, the King's Beta, and apparently I owe you my life. Sarah blinked. You're You're the one who was injured in the border wars. Shot up and bleeding out in the middle of nowhere. Cole smiled, until a crate of medical supplies showed up with my name on it. Literally, someone had written "For the Brave Ones" on the side in silver marker. Sarah remembered. She had added that note in a moment of sentimentality. Never imagining anyone would see it, never dreaming it would matter. "I'm glad you survived," she said softly. "Thanks to you, I did. So whatever you need, whenever you need it, I'm here." The second person stepped forward. A woman, late 20s, striking features, dark eyes that missed nothing. She wore professional clothes but moved like someone trained in combat, intelligence officer Sarah guessed. The kind of person who dealt in secrets and information. "Elena Frost," the woman said. No handshake offered. She simply nodded in acknowledgement. "Head of intelligence for the Northern Territories. Ronan asked me to dig into what happened in Silvermoon." She gestured to the holographic table. "I've been digging for 2 days. What I found is going to make you angry." "Show us," Ronan commanded. Elena tapped a control panel. The table lit up, projecting a three-dimensional recreation of the Silvermoon pack house kitchen, the night of the poisoning. Sarah's breath caught. It looked so real, so vivid. She could almost smell the roasted meat and fresh bread. "This is a composite reconstruction," Elena explained, "built from security footage the tribunal conveniently forgot to include in their evidence packets. Watch." The hologram played. A figure in a gray uniform moved through the kitchen. Sarah recognized herself. 2 days younger, a lifetime more innocent. She watched her holographic self carry a tray of wine glasses, arrange them on the counter with care. Then she reached for the sealed wine bottle, pulled the cork, poured deep red liquid into crystal glasses. 1, 2, 3, 4. The fifth glass was different, slightly taller, etched with a delicate pattern. Vivian's glass set aside because she had requested something special. The expensive vintage from the southern vineyards. Holographic Sarah poured the wine, set the bottle down, turned away to grab a tray of appetizers from the warming station. 3 seconds, maybe less. A shadow moved in the background, behind the pillar near the servant's entrance. "Pause," Elena commanded. The image froze. She manipulated the projection, zooming in. Enhancing, the shadow resolved into a figure. Male, tall, wearing a server's uniform identical to Sarah's. His face was turned away from the camera, but his hand was clearly visible, hovering over Vivian's wine glass. Fingers opening. Something small falling from his palm into the liquid. "Closer," Ronan ordered. Elena zoomed in further, on the figure's wrist, on the watch he wore. Gold, distinctive, expensive. A Rolex with a custom engraving, visible even in the grainy footage. Sarah's hand flew to her mouth. "That's Marcus's cousin, Adrian." "Adrian Ashford," Elena confirmed. 27 years old, second in line for the Alpha position after Marcus. Convenient, isn't it? If Marcus is deemed unfit to lead, Adrian takes over. Cole leaned against the table. "But why frame Sarai? If Adrian wanted the Alpha position, why not just poison Marcus directly?" "Because poisoning an Alpha heir would trigger a full investigation," Elena said. "The Crown would get involved. Too much scrutiny, too much risk. But framing an Omega for poisoning a visiting dignitary? That's pack justice. Local. Contained." She swiped to the next file. Financial records appeared. Bank statements. Wire transfers. 3 weeks before the poisoning, Adrian Ashford received a payment of $500,000. The source was carefully laundered through shell corporations and offshore accounts. Took me 48 hours to trace it. The final link in the chain appeared on the screen. The money came from an account registered to Vivian Cross. The room went silent. Sarah felt like she'd been punched. "The victim paid the poisoner." "Not a victim," Ronan said. His voice was cold, controlled, but his eyes were molten gold. "An accomplice." Elena pulled up another file. Medical records. "I had Dr. Thorne analyze the reports Silvermoon sent over, the ones describing Vivian's condition after the alleged poisoning." Dr. Thorne's voice came through the speakers. "He must have recorded this earlier. The symptoms are inconsistent with wolfsbane poisoning. Heart rate remained stable throughout. Respiratory distress was dramatic but controlled. Blood work shows traces of peanut protein in synthetic compounds designed to trigger allergic response. Not lethal, not even particularly dangerous, just theatrical. The pieces fell into place like dominoes." "She staged it," Sarah whispered. "Vivian staged her own poisoning." "And paid Adrian to make it happen," Cole added. "But why? What does she get out of destroying you?" Sarah thought about the way Vivian had looked at Marcus, the possessive grip on his arm, the triumphant smile when he announced she was his mate. Marcus, Sarah said. She wanted Marcus, and I was in the way. Elena nodded. Simple motive, jealousy and ambition. Vivian Cross is the youngest of 5 daughters. In Southern Isles, pack culture daughters are married off for alliances. She had no power of her own, but as Luna of Silver Moon Pack, as mate to an alpha heir, she'd have status, influence, everything she never had growing up. And Sarah was the obstacle, Ronan finished. The childhood sweetheart, the secret bond, the girl Marcus actually loved. The past tense hurt. Marcus had loved her, once, before power and politics and a beautiful liar convinced him to throw that love away. Sarah looked at the frozen image of Adrian dropping poison into the wineglass. The same Adrian who had visited her in the cells, who had said, "Stay strong, Sarah, the truth will come out." Lies. All lies. How did they know about the bond, she asked. Marcus and I were careful. We kept it secret because his father wanted him to make a political match. Elena pulled up more files. Phone records. Text messages. Someone was watching you. For months. We found evidence of surveillance. Listening devices in the servants' quarters. Cameras in the gardens where you used to meet Marcus. Someone documented everything and fed it to Vivian. Who? Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. Still working on that, but I will find them. Ronan moved to stand beside Sarah. He didn't touch her, but his presence was solid, grounding. We have the proof, he said, the footage, the financial trail, the medical evidence, everything we need to prove you're innocent. Then why do I still feel powerless? Sarah looked up at him. They destroyed my life, my home, the man I loved, and now I'm supposed to what? Take this evidence to the same tribunal that convicted me without a fair trial. No, Ronan said. We're not going to the tribunal. He gestured to the holographic table. It shifted, showing a different image. A formal invitation. Elegant script on cream-colored cardstock. Silver Moon Pack cordially invites you to the succession ceremony of Alpha Marcus Ashford, October 19th, tomorrow night. Sarah's blood ran cold. He's going through with it, taking the oath, claiming Vivian as his mate. Yes. Ronan's smile was dangerous, predatory. And we're going to crash their party. The training room in the Stormcrest estate was built for warriors. Padded floors, reinforced walls, equipment designed to push wolves to their absolute limits. It smelled like sweat and determination and the kind of hard work that built character. Cole stood in the center of the room, wrapping his hands in athletic tape. You sure about this? He asked Sarah. She finished lacing up the training shoes Elena had provided. They fit perfectly. Someone had paid attention to details. I need to learn how to protect myself, Sarah said. I've spent my whole life being gentle, being soft, being the girl who never fought back. Look where that got me. Cole's expression softened. Being gentle isn't weakness, Sarah. It's a choice, a brave one. Then I'm choosing something different now. For the next hour, Cole taught her the basics. How to stand, how to balance her weight, how to throw a punch without breaking her own thumb. Sarah was terrible at it. She telegraphed every move, flinched when Cole demonstrated blocks, apologized every time she made contact even though he was wearing protective padding. Stop apologizing, Cole said gently. This is training. You're supposed to hit me. I don't want to hurt you. You won't. I'm twice your size and trained since childhood, but someday you might need to hurt someone who wants to hurt you, and when that day comes, I want you to know how. They worked until Sarah's muscles trembled, until sweat dripped down her spine, until her mind went quiet and focused on nothing but the next move, the next breath. It felt good, felt like taking back control. When they finally stopped, Sarah collapsed on a bench. Cole tossed her a towel and a bottle of water. You did well, he said. For a first session. I was awful. You showed up. That's what matters. He sat beside her. Can I tell you something? Sarah nodded. I lost my mate 5 years ago. Rogue attack during the border wars. She was human, didn't have wolf healing, didn't survive the injuries. Sarah's heart clenched. Cole, I'm so sorry. I thought I'd die too. Thought the bond breaking would kill me. But Ronan? Cole's voice roughened. He sat with me for 3 days. Didn't say much, just sat there, made sure I kept breathing, kept living. He looked at Sarah. He's not good at emotions, not good at talking about feelings. But when it matters, when someone needs him, he shows up every time. Why are you telling me this? Because I see the way he looks at you, and I see the way you look at him. And I want you to know that beneath all the armor and the titles and the reputation, he's a good man, the best man I know. Before Sarah could respond, the training room door opened. Elena walked in. She had changed from business clothes into workout gear. Her dark hair pulled back in a practical braid. My turn, she announced. Cole teaches you how to fight. I teach you how to think. They sat in the estate library, tea service on the low table between them. It should have felt civilized, refined. Instead, it felt like a strategy session. Pack politics, Elena began, is all about power and perception. Right now, Vivian has both. She's the victim, the sympathetic figure, the woman who almost died and graciously forgave her attacker enough to still attend the succession ceremony. Even though she's the one who set the whole thing up, Sarah said bitterly. Exactly. But the pack doesn't know that. They believe the narrative she's created. To change their minds, we need to destroy her credibility. Completely. Publicly. Irreversibly. Elena poured tea. The simple domestic action at odds with the calculated intelligence in her eyes. Tomorrow night, when we walk into that ceremony, you need to be perfect, poised, confident, everything Vivian is trying to pretend to be. I don't know how to be those things. Yes, you do. Elena leaned forward. You survived 3 days of torture without breaking. You maintained your innocence when everyone told you to confess. You trusted yourself when the whole world said you were wrong. That's not weakness, Europa. That's steel. She pulled out a tablet, showed Sarah images of formal events, galas, ceremonies, important wolves in elegant clothes. This is the world you're walking into, not as a servant anymore, as the king's guest, maybe more than that if the way Ronan looks at you is any indication. Sarah felt heat rise to her cheeks. He doesn't, we're not, you're not what not falling for each other. Elena's smile was knowing. I've worked for Ronan for 6 years. I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you, like you're the only thing in the room that matters. He's just being kind, protective. He's being Ronan, which means he's terrible at expressing emotions, but excellent at showing them through actions. He reorganized his entire schedule to be here while you heal. He personally vetted every member of the medical team. He sleeps 4 hours a night because he's obsessed with finding evidence to clear your name. Elena set down her teacup. That's not kindness, Sarah. That's something else. Sarah didn't know what to say, didn't know how to process the idea that the Alpha King might feel something for her beyond duty or obligation. Come on, Elena said, standing. Let's work on your posture. You're going to walk into that ballroom tomorrow like you own it. Because in a way you do, you own the truth. That evening, Dr. Thorne came to check on Sarah's progress. He examined her ribs with gentle, practiced hands, checked the range of motion in her leg, studied the readouts from the light therapy sessions. Remarkable, he murmured. Your body is responding better than expected. The accelerated healing usually takes a week. You'll be at full strength in 3 days. Just in time for the succession ceremony, Sarah said. Dr. Thorne looked at her over his glasses. You're really going back there, to face them. I have to. It's the only way to get my life back. He was quiet for a moment. Then he pulled up a chair, sat down like he had all the time in the world. May I tell you about my daughter, he asked. Sarah nodded, surprised. Her name was Charlotte. She'd be about your age now, 22, 23. She was strong-willed, compassionate, always standing up for those who couldn't stand up for themselves. Was, past tense. What happened to her? Sarah asked gently. Cancer, human disease. We found it too late. His eyes were distant, remembering. She fought for 2 years, never complained, never asked why her, just kept living, kept hoping, kept being kind even when the world was cruel to her. He focused on Sarah. You remind me of her. The way you refuse to let bitterness poison your heart. The way you still think about others even when you have every reason to be selfish. That's rare. Precious. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. I lost my daughter, Dr. Thorne continued. But if I can help you survive, if I can give you back your health and your future, then maybe her kindness lives on through you. Maybe that's enough. He stood, patted her shoulder in a fatherly gesture. You're going to be fine, Sarah. More than fine. You're going to be extraordinary. After he left, Sarah sat in the quiet room and cried, not from pain or fear, but from gratitude, from the overwhelming realization that she had found something she thought she'd lost forever. Family, not by blood, not by pack, but by choice. by the bonds formed in fire and adversity and shared purpose. Cole, who taught her to fight. Elena, who taught her to think. Dr. Thorne, who saw his daughter in her. And Ronan. Ronan, who had caught her when she fell and refused to let her go. She found him on the estate balcony that night. He stood at the railing looking out over the mountains. The moon was full. Silver light painted the snow-capped peaks and turned the forest below into something magical. Sarah approached quietly. He heard her anyway, turned with a slight smile. Can't sleep again. Too much in my head. He gestured to the space beside him. She took it, stood close enough to feel the warmth radiating from his body but not quite touching. For a while they just looked at the view, breathing the cold mountain air, existing in comfortable silence. Thank you, Sarah said finally, for everything, for believing me, for helping me, for giving me a place to heal. You don't have to keep thanking me. I know, but I want you to know it matters. You matter. Ronan turned to face her. His amber eyes caught the moonlight, looked almost luminous. Can I ask you something? He said. Anything. Why did you pack those medical supplies 3 years ago? You didn't know me, didn't know Cole. You had no reason to care about northern wolves bleeding out in a forest. Sarah thought back, remembered the news reports, the images of wounded soldiers, the casual way the pack had dismissed it as not our problem. Because they were hurting, she said simply. Because I could help. Because if I didn't, I'd have to live with knowing I let people suffer when I had the power to ease that suffering, even a little bit. That's who you are, Ronan said softly. Someone who helps, even when it costs you, even when no one's watching. Is that a bad thing? No, it's the best thing. He reached out, hesitated, then gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers lingered on her cheek. The world needs more people like you, Sarah. It needs less people like me. I don't think that's true. I'm a weapon. I've spent my entire adult life fighting, destroying, building fear. That's not noble. That's not heroic. It's just necessary. You saved me. I told you I owe you for Cole. No, Sarah placed her hand over his, the one still touching her face. You saved me because you're good. Because underneath all the armor and the reputation, you're someone who protects the innocent, who fights for justice, who catches people when they fall. Ronan's breath caught. His eyes searched hers. Sarah, you asked me why I packed those medical supplies. I told you. Now I'm asking you. Why did you really come to Silvermoon? Why did you invoke King's privilege when you could have just let pack justice run its course? He was silent for a long moment, his hand still cupping her face, his thumb brushing her cheekbone in the gentlest touch. Because the moment I saw you standing in that courtroom, he said finally, bruised and broken, and still standing tall, still fighting, I knew I couldn't walk away. I knew you were someone worth saving, someone worth knowing. He leaned closer, close enough that Sarah could count his eyelashes, could see the silver threads in his dark hair, could feel his breath on her lips. And maybe, he whispered, maybe I hoped you could save me too. The kiss when it came was nothing like she expected. It wasn't desperate or possessive or demanding. It was gentle, sweet, a question instead of a demand. His lips touched hers with infinite care like she was something precious, something breakable. Sarah's hands came up to rest on his chest. She could feel his heartbeat, fast, strong, alive. When they pulled apart, Ronan rested his forehead against hers. I'm falling for you, he admitted. I know it's too soon. I know you're still healing. But I need you to know, before tomorrow, before everything gets complicated, I'm falling for you, Sarah Nightshade. Joy bloomed in her chest, warm and golden and unexpected. I'm falling for you too, she whispered. I already fell. And they stood there under the full moon, two broken people finding wholeness in each other, two souls choosing hope over fear, choosing tomorrow over yesterday. And for the first time in her life, Sarah understood what it meant to be truly seen, truly valued, truly loved. Not for what she could do or who she could serve or how useful she could be, but for who she was. Just Sarah. And that was enough. Morning came too quickly. Sarah woke to find a garment bag hanging on her door. A note attached in Ronan's strong handwriting. For tonight, you're going to need armor. This is yours, R. Inside the bag was the most beautiful dress Sarah had ever seen. Deep crimson, the color of courage, Ronan had called it. The fabric was liquid silk that caught the light and seemed to move like water. Long sleeves, high neck, modest from the front. But when Sarah held it up, she saw the back was entirely open. Plunging low to expose her spine, it was elegant and dangerous. innocent and deadly. It was perfect. A second note fell from the folds of the dress. War isn't always fought with weapons. Sometimes it's fought with presence, with confidence, with the absolute refusal to be invisible. Wear this. Show them who you've become. Sarah held the dress against her body, looked at herself in the mirror. The girl who had scrubbed floors was gone. The woman looking back was someone new, someone stronger, someone ready. The team gathered in the war room one final time. Ronan stood at the head of the table, battle commander mode, his tactical mind organizing every detail. Timeline, he said. The succession ceremony begins at 8 p.m. Guests arrive between 7:30 and 8. Marcus takes the Alpha Oath at 8:30. He'll announce his chosen mate immediately after. Elena pulled up a three-dimensional blueprint of the Silver Moon Pack House ballroom. Security will be tight. Alpha Garrett doesn't want any disruptions. We'll have 6 enforcers with us. Elite team, Cole leads. Cole nodded. We enter as invited guests. The king plus entourage. Nothing unusual, nothing threatening. Until we want to be threatening, Elena added with a sharp smile. Ronan looked at Sarah. You'll enter on my arm, as my guest, under my protection. No one can touch you without declaring war on the Northern Territories. What about Marcus? Sarah asked. He's going to try to stop us, to have me arrested again. Let him try. Ronan's voice was cold, certain. The moment he does, he violates the king's privilege. That's grounds for me to remove him from power permanently. He manipulated the hologram, showed the projection screen at the back of the ballroom. The plan is simple. We wait until Marcus is about to claim Vivian. Maximum audience, maximum impact. Then we play the evidence. The kitchen footage, the financial records, all of it. They'll deny it, Sarah said. Adrian will lie. Vivian will play victim. Marcus will believe whatever serves the pack. That's why we don't give them the chance. Elena held up a small device. Remote trigger for the projection system. One button. Everything plays automatically. By the time they realize what's happening, the truth is already out there. And if they still don't believe, Sarah's voice was small, scared. What if the evidence isn't enough? Ronan crossed to her, took her hands in his. Then we walk away. We take you somewhere safe. We build a life far from Silver Moon and Marcus and all the people who failed you. Because Sarah, I need you to understand something. He lifted her chin, made her meet his eyes. This isn't about them anymore. It's about you. About giving you the choice they took away. If you want to walk into that ballroom and demand justice, I'll stand beside you. If you want to leave and never look back, I'll take you anywhere you want to go. Tears pricked Sarah's eyes. You'd do that? Walk away from pack politics, from the chance to expose corruption. I'd do anything for you. The simple truth of it stole her breath. Elena cleared her throat. As touching as this is, we need to finalize the logistics. Sarah, you'll need to be ready by 6 p.m. Hair and makeup team arrives at 4. Hair and makeup team, Sarah blinked. You're entering as the king's companion. You need to look the part. Elena's smile was almost gentle. Don't worry, I'll be there. We'll make sure you feel like yourself. Just elevated. Cole checked his watch. We should run through the security protocols. Sarah, you need to know the exit routes, just in case. The next hours passed in a blur of planning, contingencies, backup plans for the backup plans. By the time they finished, Sarah's head was spinning. But she wasn't scared anymore. She was ready. At 4 p.m. the transformation began. A stylist named Rena arrived with 2 assistants. They set up in Sarah's room, turning it into a temporary salon. His Majesty has very specific instructions, Rena said. She was a petite woman with silver hair and hands that moved with surgical precision. He wants you to look powerful, confident, like a queen. I'm not a queen, Rena smiled. Not yet. Elena arrived as they were washing Sarah's hair. She sat in the corner watching the process with sharp eyes. How are you holding up? She asked. Terrified, excited, nauseous, all of the above. Good. That means you're taking this seriously. The assistants worked on Sarah's hair, trimming the damaged ends, adding subtle layers. When they finished, her dark hair fell in soft waves around her shoulders. Natural, effortless, beautiful. The makeup was next. Rena worked with a light hand, enhancing instead of concealing. A touch of gold on the eyelids, dark lashes, lips in a shade of berry that made Sarah's mouth look full and determined. When they finally let her look in the mirror, Sarah barely recognized herself. She looked strong, fierce, like someone who could walk into a room of enemies and make them remember her name. Now the dress, Rena said. Elena helped her into it. The silk slid over her skin like water, cool and perfect. The front was modest, almost demure. But when Elena fastened the back, leaving her spine exposed, Sarah understood the genius of it. Vulnerability as armor, showing her scars and daring anyone to see them as weakness. One more thing. Elena pulled a long velvet box from her bag, opened it carefully. Inside was a necklace, white gold chain holding a massive black diamond, cut in the shape of a teardrop. It caught the light and seemed to pulse with its own inner fire. The Stormcrest heart, Elena said softly. Ronan's mother wore this, and his grandmother before her. It's only given to someone who matters, someone precious. I can't take this. It's too much. It's for his mate, his choice. Elena fastened the necklace around Sarah's throat. The weight was substantial, possessive, a claim and a protection all at once. He wants you to wear it tonight. He wants everyone to know you're under his protection, that you matter to him. Sarah looked at herself in the mirror, at the girl she used to be and the woman she was becoming, at the black diamond resting against her crimson dress. She looked like she belonged in Ronan's world, like she belonged anywhere she chose to be. Thank you, she whispered to her reflection, to Rena and the assistants in Elena and everyone who had believed in her. Thank you for helping me be brave. You were always brave, Elena said. We just gave you the costume. At 6 p.m., Ronan knocked on her door. Sarah took a deep breath, opened it. He stood in the hallway in a formal tuxedo, black on black, the Stormcrest crest pinned to his lapel, a silver wolf skull that marked him as king. He was devastating, powerful, every inch the ruler he was born to be. But when he saw her, everything stopped. His amber eyes went wide, his breath caught audibly. He just stared. Is it too much? Sarah asked, suddenly uncertain. I can change. I can... No. His voice was rough, raw. Don't change anything. You're perfect. He stepped into the room, closed the door behind him. For a long moment, he just looked at her, taking in every detail. Red, he murmured. I knew it would suit you. His eyes found the Stormcrest heart at her throat. Something fierce and possessive flashed across his face. You're wearing it. Elena said you wanted me to. I do. He reached out, traced the line of the necklace with one finger. His touch sent shivers down her spine. But seeing it on you, seeing you like this, it's doing things to my control. What kind of things? The kind where I want to forget the plan, forget Silvermoon, forget everything except keeping you safe and happy and mine. The last word hung between them, weighted, important. Ronan, he cupped her face, gentle despite the intensity in his eyes. I know this is fast. I know you're still healing from Marcus, from the betrayal. But Sarah, I need you to know, after tonight, whatever happens, you're not alone. You have me. You have Cole and Elena and Dr. Thorne. You have a family here, a home. What if I want more than that? Sarah asked, her voice barely a whisper. What if I want you not just as a protector or a friend, but as something more? Ronan's eyes blazed. Then you'll have me, in any way you want, for as long as you want. I'm yours, Sarah, completely. He leaned down, kissed her with all the pent-up emotion of the past days, the fear and hope and desperate need to keep her safe, to make her happy, to prove he was worthy of the gift she was offering. When they pulled apart, they were both breathing hard. We should go, Ronan said. The convoy's ready. Wait, Sarah stopped him. I need to say something first. Anything. When we walk into that ballroom, I'm going to be scared. I'm going to want to run, to hide, to be invisible again. You don't have to do this. We can... I'm not finished. She took his hand. I'm going to be scared, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because you believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Because Cole and Elena and Dr. Thorne gave me the tools to be strong. Because for the first time in my life, I have something worth fighting for. What's that? My future. My choice, my voice, she smiled. And maybe a king who looks at me like I'm the only star in his sky. Ronan pulled her close, rested his forehead against hers. You're not just a star, Sarah. You're the whole constellation, the entire universe. And after tonight, everyone will know it. The convoy of black SUVs rolled through the night towards Silvermoon territory. Sarah sat in the back of the lead vehicle, Ronan beside her, their hands intertwined on the seat between them. Through the tinted windows, she watched the landscape change. Northern mountains giving way to familiar forests. The roads she used to walk. The creek where she and Marcus used to meet. A lifetime ago. A different girl. Nervous? Ronan asked. Terrified. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. Just remember, you're not the girl they destroyed. You're the woman who survived. They should be the ones who are scared. The pack house came into view, lit up like a beacon. Cars lined the driveway, wolves in formal clothes streaming toward the entrance. The succession ceremony? Marcus's coronation. The night he would claim Vivian and seal Sarah's exile forever. Except Sarah wasn't in exile anymore. She was coming home. Not as a servant, not as a victim, as a reckoning. The convoy pulled up to the main entrance. Cole and the enforcers exited first, securing the perimeter, making sure it was safe. Then Ronan stepped out, turned, offered his hand. Sarah took it, stepped out of the SUV and into the crisp October night. Every head turned. Whispers rippled through the crowd like wind through wheat. Is that? It can't be. Sarah Nightshade, but she's supposed to be. With the Alphaking, Ronan offered his arm. Sarah took it. Felt the solid strength of him. The unshakable confidence. Ready, he whispered. Sarah looked up at the pack house, at the ballroom where her life had ended, where tonight it would begin again. Ready. They walked toward the entrance, the crowd parting before them. Wolves bowing to the king, staring at the woman on his arm with shock and confusion and dawning recognition. Behind them, Cole and the enforcers formed a protective wall. Ahead through the open doors, music played. Glasses clinked, celebration and ignorance, and the last few moments before the truth destroyed everything. Sarah's hand tightened on Ronan's arm. He covered it with his own. Squeezed once. I've got you, little wolf, and I'm not letting go. They stepped through the doors, into the ballroom, into the fire, into the beginning of the end. The Silver Moon Ballroom had never looked more beautiful. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light across 300 guests dressed in their finest. White roses climbed the walls in elegant arrangements. Tables draped in cream linen groaned under the weight of celebration food. Champagne flowed freely. Laughter echoed off the high ceilings. It was perfect. Pristine. A carefully constructed illusion of happiness and prosperity. Sarah stood at the entrance and felt nothing but cold fury. This was the same room where they had judged her, condemned her, watched her fall and did nothing. Now she was back, and everything had changed. The music didn't stop immediately, but conversations died. One by one, wolves noticed the king standing in the doorway, noticed the woman on his arm. Recognition rippled through the crowd like a stone thrown into still water. Sarah felt their eyes on her, felt the weight of their judgment and their shock and their confusion. Part of her wanted to shrink, to hide behind Ronan, to be invisible again. But she had promised herself, promised Ronan, promised the girl she used to be that she would stand tall. So she did. She lifted her chin, straightened her spine. Let them look. Let them see what they had tried to destroy and failed. The crimson dress moved like liquid fire as she walked. The Stormcrest heart caught the chandelier light and threw it back in brilliant flashes. Her hair fell in dark waves around her shoulders. Her face was calm, composed, beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with makeup and everything to do with survival. She looked like a queen. Ronan's hand on her back was warm, possessive, a silent declaration to everyone watching. This woman is under my protection. This woman matters to me. Touch her at your peril. They walked down the center aisle. The crowd parted like the Red Sea. No one spoke. No one moved. They just stared. At the front of the room, on a raised platform decorated with silver and white, stood the Silver Moon leadership. Alpha Garrett in the center. Older now, more tired than Sarah remembered. The weight of nearly losing his pack to scandal had aged him. And beside him, Marcus. Marcus Ashford stood in a tailored charcoal suit, 25 years old, about to become Alpha, about to claim his mate and his title and his future. He looked good. Handsome in the way that had made Sarah's heart race when she was 16. Strong jaw, dark hair, brown eyes that used to look at her with love. Those eyes were wide now, shocked. His mouth had fallen open slightly. He stared at Sarah like she was a ghost, something impossible, something that shouldn't exist. Next to Marcus, holding his arm with perfectly manicured hands, was Vivian Cross. She wore white. Of course she wore white, virginal, innocent, the perfect Luna for a perfect Alpha. Her dark hair was arranged in an elaborate updo, diamonds at her throat. She looked like a princess from a fairy tale, until you looked closer, until you saw the way her knuckles had gone white on Marcus's arm, the way her eyes had narrowed to slits, the way her perfect smile had frozen into something sharp and dangerous. Vivian recognized a threat when she saw one. Ronan and Sarah reached the base of the platform. They stopped. The entire ballroom held its breath. Alpha Garrett found his voice first. He stood his chair scraping against the floor. King Stormcrest. His voice wavered slightly. This is unexpected. We weren't aware you planned to attend. I go where I please, Ronan said. His voice was calm, conversational, but the authority in it was unmistakable. I hope you don't mind that I brought a guest. Every eye in the room turned to Sarah. She felt their judgment, their questions, their confusion. She met their gazes steadily, refused to flinch. Hello, Alpha Garrett, Sarah said, her voice clear, strong. It's been a while. Vivian made a sound, half gasp, half shriek. She jumped to her feet, pointing at Sarah with a trembling finger. What is she doing here? She's a criminal. She tried to kill me. Marcus calls security. Have her arrested. Arrest her for what? Ronan's voice was soft, dangerous. For being my invited guest, for standing in a public space, or for the crime she didn't commit. Marcus finally moved. He stepped forward to the edge of the platform. His eyes were locked on Sarah. She could see the war raging behind them. Shock, confusion, something that might have been regret. Sarah, her name on his lips sounded like a prayer, like a curse. You're alive. You're here. Disappointed, Sarah asked. Cool, detached. Did you expect me to disappear quietly, to rot in whatever prison you imagined for me? I thought you were in the king's custody. I thought you were being held for trial. I was in the king's custody, Sarah agreed, being healed, being treated for the injuries your pack inflicted, being given something you never offered me, the truth. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, wolves whispering to each other, confused, curious, hungry for drama. Vivian's voice cut through the noise, shrill, desperate. She's lying. She's a poisoner, a criminal, King Stormcrest. With all due respect, you've been deceived. This woman is dangerous. She tried to kill me. Everyone saw the evidence. Did they? Ronan's smile was cold. Everyone saw what you wanted them to see, what you carefully arranged for them to see. He gestured to Cole, who stood near the back of the room by the technical booth. Cole nodded once, moved to the control panel. What are you doing? Marcus demanded. This is my succession ceremony. You can't just... I can do whatever I want, Ronan interrupted. I'm the Alpha King, and I'm about to show your pack something they should have seen weeks ago. The truth. The giant projection screen behind the platform flickered to life. The ballroom went silent. The footage played in stark clarity. Black and white security camera feed. Timestamp in the corner. October 12th, 7 p.m. The Silver Moon Packhouse kitchen appeared on screen. Sarah watched herself move through the familiar space, carrying wine glasses, arranging them with care. She looked so young, so innocent, so unaware of the trap closing around her. Holographic Sarah reached for the wine bottle, pulled the cork, poured the deep red liquid into crystal glasses. 1, 2, 3, 4. The fifth glass, Vivian's special request, the expensive vintage. Sarah poured, set the bottle down, turned away to grab the appetizer tray. 3 seconds, maybe less. A shadow moved behind the pillar. The crowd gasped collectively as the figure stepped into frame. Male, tall, server's uniform. His face turned away from the camera, but his hand was clearly visible, hovering over Vivian's glass, fingers opening, something small and dark falling from his palm into the wine. The image froze, zoomed in, enhanced. The figure's wrist filled the screen, and there, unmistakable in the harsh light, was a gold Rolex watch, custom engraved. That's Adrian's watch, someone in the crowd said, loud enough to be heard. I saw Marcus give it to him for his 21st birthday. All eyes turned to the front row, to where Adrian Ashford sat. He had gone pale, sheet white, his hands trembling in his lap. Lie, he croaked. That's not... I wasn't... But the footage continued, showed Adrian glancing around, checking to make sure no one saw, then slipping back into the shadows, disappearing. The screen changed. Financial records now, bank statements, wire transfers, complex chains of money moving through shell corporations and offshore accounts. $500,000, paid to Adrian Ashford, source traced back, layer by layer, until the final name appeared on the screen. Vivian Cross. The ballroom erupted, voices raised in shock and anger. wolves demanding explanations, others shouting denials. The careful order of the ceremony dissolving into chaos. Marcus turned on Adrian, his face a mask of fury and betrayal. "What did you do?" he roared. "Adrian, what the hell did you do?" Adrian tried to stand, tried to run, but Cole was already there, strong hands on his shoulders, pushing him back into his seat. "I... She made me..." Adrian's voice broke, desperate. "Vivian said Sarah would just get sick. I didn't know she was going to frame her for attempted murder." "You're lying," Vivian shrieked, but her voice had lost its power, its certainty. "He's lying to save himself." The screen changed again. Medical records this time. Dr. Thorne's analysis, his calm, professional voice narrating over the data. The symptoms described in Miss Cross's medical report are inconsistent with wolfsbane poisoning. Heart rate remains stable. No organ damage, no cellular degradation. The reaction appears to be a controlled allergic response, likely peanut protein or synthetic compound, designed to mimic serious poisoning without causing lasting harm. Vivian's face had gone from pale to flushed, angry red blooming on her cheeks. "I was dying. I could have died." "But you didn't," Sarah said, her voice cutting through the noise. Clear, strong. "You staged the whole thing? You paid Adrian to spike the wine. You orchestrated your own poisoning. All to get rid of me, all to steal Marcus." She stepped closer to the platform, close enough to see the hatred burning in Vivian's eyes. "You almost succeeded. You destroyed my reputation, my home, my life. You had me tortured and drugged and broken. You turned the man I loved against me. And for what? A title, a mate you had to manipulate into choosing you. Marcus loves me." Vivian grabbed his arm, clung to it like a lifeline. "Tell her, Marcus. Tell her you chose me." Marcus looked down at Vivian, at the woman he had been about to claim as his mate, the woman he had defended, believed, chosen over Sarah. He saw a stranger. "Did you do it?" he asked, his voice low. "Dangerous. Did you stage the poisoning? Did you frame Sarah?" "I did it for us." Vivian's mask finally cracked, shattered completely. "You were never going to choose me while she was around. I gave you a way out. I made you look strong. I made you an alpha." She was screaming now, all pretense of innocence gone. Marcus shoved her away, violently. She stumbled. Would have fallen if not for her father catching her. Alpha Cross of the Southern Isles looked at his daughter with disgust and disappointment. "You've brought shame on our pack," he said quietly. "On our family." Marcus turned to Sarah, descended the platform steps, walked toward her with purpose. Ronan stepped in front of her, a wall of protective fury. "Don't," he warned. "Don't come any closer. I need to talk to her. Sarah, please." Sarah placed a hand on Ronan's arm, gently. "It's okay, let him speak." Ronan moved aside, but stayed close, ready to intervene if Marcus so much as breathed wrong. Marcus stood in front of Sarah. This close she could see the circles under his eyes, the lines of stress around his mouth. He looked older, tired, broken. "I'm sorry," he said. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know. The evidence, and Father was pressuring me, and Vivian was so perfect. I thought you had betrayed me." "So you betrayed me first," Sarah said, no anger in her voice, just truth. "You didn't even give me a chance to defend myself. I was wrong. Please, Sarah, we can start over." He reached for her hand. Sarah stepped back. "No," she said simply. "There is no bond. You severed it when you chose Vivian, when you let them torture me and did nothing." Then horribly, Marcus clutched his chest, gasped. His face went gray. Purple veins bulged against his throat. "Marcus!" Alpha Garrett rushed to his son's side. The pack doctor pushed through the crowd, knelt beside Marcus, checked his pulse. "It's cardiac regius," he announced. "The bond is snapping. The rejection is killing him." Panic spread through the ballroom, wolves shouting for help. Sarah stood frozen, watching Marcus writhe on the floor, watching him die. She could save him. One word, one touch. Ronan appeared at her side. "It's your choice. If you walk away, he dies. But if you go back, you can save him. You grant him mercy. You keep him alive to remember what he threw away." Sarah looked at Ronan, at the man who had believed her. Then she looked at Marcus, at the who had loved her and the man who had betrayed her. She made her choice. Sarah released Ronan's hand, walked back across the ballroom floor, her heels clicking against the polished wood. The only sound in the silent room. She knelt beside Marcus. He looked up at her with dying eyes. "You came back," he wheezed. "I knew. I didn't come back for you, Sarah said, her voice clear, calm. I came back for me. She placed her palm flat against his chest. The crowd pressed closer, watching, waiting. I, Sarah Nightshade, she said. Her voice resonated with ancient power. Hereby reject you, Marcus Ashford, as my mate. White light exploded from her palm. The temperature dropped. Marcus screamed, I sever the tie that bound us. I release you to a life without me. Her hand glowed like captured moonlight. Live, Marcus, she whispered. Live and remember what you lost. And know that I'm going to be happy without you. She pulled her hand away. Sharp. Final. The white light flared once more, then vanished. Marcus's back arched. A massive intake of air rushed into his lungs. The gray color vanished. His heart stabilized. He was alive, but his eyes were empty. The bond was gone forever. Sarah stood, felt lighter than she had in years. She was free. She turned her back on Marcus, walked away without looking back. Ronan waited at the edge of the crowd, his amber eyes blazing with pride. She took his offered arm, let him pull her close. Cruel, he murmured. Merciful. Perfect. Take me home, Sarah said. They walked toward the exit. Cole and the enforcers fell into formation around them. Behind them, chaos erupted. Vivian being dragged away by her father, Adrian arrested, Marcus on the floor alive but shattered. Alpha Garrett's voice rang out. Wait! King Stormcrest! Wait! Ronan paused, didn't turn around. We were wrong, Garrett said, his voice heavy with shame. We failed her. I don't know how to make this right. You can't, Ronan said simply. The damage is done. Sarah has no reason to ever return to this pack. Then what happens now? Now you clean up your mess. You rebuild. You learn to do better. His voice softened slightly. And you let Sarah go. Let her build a life where she's valued. He looked down at Sarah. Somewhere she can be happy. Where will she go? Garrett asked. Wherever she wants, Ronan said. With me, to a place where she's not a servant or a victim, where she's a queen. Sarah looked up at Ronan, at this man who had caught her when she fell, who had believed her, who had loved her. Take me home, Ronan, she said, always. They walked out of the ballroom, out of the pack house, out of the life that had tried to destroy Sarah and failed, into the crisp October night, into the future, into the beginning of everything. The drive back to the Northern Territories passed in peaceful silence. Sarah pressed against Ronan's side, his arm around her shoulders, her head resting against his chest. How do you feel? Ronan asked. Free, Sarah said. The word tasted like truth, like air. The bond is gone. It doesn't hurt. It's just nothing. You were magnificent back there, Ronan said, choosing mercy over vengeance. That took real strength. I didn't do it for him. I did it for me. She looked up at Ronan. So I could walk away clean. I know. That's why it was perfect. They drove through the night, past the border, past the point of no return. What happens now? Sarah asked. Now we go home. You rest. You decide what you want your life to look like. And you, Ronan pulled her closer. I'll be wherever you are. 6 months later, spring arrived at Stormcrest Estate like a benediction. Sarah stood on the balcony of the royal quarters, watching the world bloom green and gold below. 6 months had passed since that night in Silvermoon. 6 months of healing and building and becoming someone new. Someone whole. The Northern Territories had changed under her influence. Schools built, programs for Omegas implemented, voices heard that had been silent for generations. She had transformed a military state into something softer, something better, and the pack loved her for it. The council called again. Ronan's voice came from the doorway. He leaned against the frame, casual clothes, looking at her like she hung the moon. They want to schedule the coronation. Sarah turned. Is that what you want? For me to be your queen officially? I want you to be whatever makes you happy. And if I said I wanted to be your wife first before the crown and the politics? Ronan's eyes widened. He crossed to her, pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. I've been carrying this around for 2 months, he said, waiting for the perfect moment. He opened it. Inside was a ring, white gold band, black diamond center stone. It matched the Stormcrest heart perfectly. Sarah Nightshade, he said, you saved my best friend. You saved me. You showed me what it means to be more than a weapon. He took her hand, slipped the ring onto her finger. Marry me. Be my wife, my partner, my queen, my everything. Sarah looked at the ring, at the man before her, at the life stretching ahead of them. Yes, she whispered. 1,000 times yes. The coronation April 20th arrived with clear skies and northern lights dancing even in daylight. The great hall of Stormcrest Fortress was packed. Thousands gathered from across the territories. Alphas, dignitaries, anyone who wanted to witness history. The Northern Territories had never crowned a queen who wasn't born to nobility. Sarah was different, an Omega, a former servant. Someone who had earned her place through strength and compassion and refusal to stay broken. She stood in a gown of white and gold, northern lights embroidered in silver thread, the Stormcrest heart at her throat. She looked like she belonged, like she had always belonged. Ronan stood beside her, already crowned, already king. He wore formal regalia, but when he looked at Sarah, all that weight seemed to lift. The ceremony began, elder wolves speaking ancient words, blessing the union, blessing the leadership. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. Ronan took the second crown, smaller, delicate, but no less powerful, crafted from white gold and black diamonds. He held it, looked at Sarah, and then to the shock of everyone watching, he knelt. The Alpha King, ruler of the Northern Territories, on his knees before an Omega. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Ronan ignored them. His eyes were only on Sarah. "You are not my possession," he said, his voice carrying to every corner. "You are my equal, my partner, the other half of my soul." He placed the crown on her head. "I kneel before you as you once knelt before fate, as you were brought low and rose again, as you faced death and chose life." He stood, took her hands. "Rise with me, Queen Sarah of the Northern Territories. Rise and show this world what real strength looks like." Sarah felt tears slip down her cheeks. She looked out at the crowd, at the thousands watching her. She had been here before, in a different room, a different crowd, accused and condemned and broken. But that girl was gone. This woman was a queen. Ronan offered his arm. Sarah took it. They turned to face their people. The hall erupted. Cheers, applause, wolves howling in celebration. Ronan leaned close to her ear. "How does it feel?" "Like coming home," Sarah whispered. They walked down the aisle together. King and queen, partners, equals. Outside, northern lights danced in the sky. A blessing from the moon goddess herself. 1 year later, Sarah stood in the doorway of the Stormcrest Orphanage, a building she had commissioned, funded, designed personally. Inside, 30 young wolves ran and laughed and lived. Orphans, runaways, children whose packs had failed them, all given a second chance. Sarah visited once a week to show these kids that people in power could also be kind. Today, she found a small girl sitting alone, maybe 7 years old. Dark hair, thin. She looked familiar. Not in features, but in the haunted look in her eyes. Sarah recognized that look. She had worn it herself. She approached slowly, knelt beside the girl. "Hi," Sarah said softly. "I'm Sarah. What's your name?" The girl looked up, eyes wide. "Lily," she whispered. "Are you really the queen?" "I am, but I'm also just Sarah. Do you mind if I sit with you?" Lily shook her head. "Why are you sitting alone?" Sarah asked. "They say I'm nobody," Lily said, her voice small. "They say Omegas don't matter." Sarah's heart clenched. She reached out, took Lily's hand. "Can I tell you a story?" Lily nodded. "Once upon a time, there was a girl who had nothing. She was an orphan, an Omega. Everyone told her she didn't matter." Lily's eyes widened. "Like me. Exactly like you. This girl worked hard, tried to be good. But when things got hard, everyone abandoned her. They hurt her, broke her, left her to die." Sarah smiled. "But she didn't die. Someone caught her when she fell. Someone believed in her, and she discovered something important. Her worth wasn't determined by her rank or what other people thought of her." "What determined it?" Lily asked. "She determined it by choosing to be kind when the world was cruel, by choosing to stand up when she was scared, by choosing to believe in herself when everyone else had given up on her." Sarah reached up, unclasped the small crystal necklace she wore, one of the first gifts Ronan had given her. She fastened it around Lily's neck. "You are somebody, Lily. You matter. Don't let anyone tell you different." Lily touched the crystal, tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. Sarah stood, offered her hand. "Come on, let's go play with the others. And if anyone says you're nobody, you can tell them the queen said otherwise." Lily smiled, took her hand. That evening, Sarah returned to the royal quarters. She found Ronan in the nursery, standing by the crib, looking down at their daughter, 3 months old, perfect. They had named her Hope. Ronan looked up when Sarah entered, smiled. How was the orphanage? Good. Met a little girl who reminded me of myself. Gave her my crystal necklace. The one I gave you. She needs it more now. Ronan crossed to her, pulled her into his arms. You're a good queen, he said. A good mother. A good person. I'm trying. You're succeeding. They stood in the soft light, watching their daughter sleep, thinking about the journey that had brought them here. From a courtroom where Sarah had fallen, to a palace where she had risen. It hadn't been easy. The path had been hard, full of moments where giving up would have been easier. But Sarah had fought, had survived, had chosen to be more than what the world said she should be. And now she stood in her own home, with a man who loved her, with a daughter who would grow up knowing her worth, with a kingdom that respected her. Not because someone gave it to her, but because she had earned it. What are you thinking about? Ronan asked. Sarah looked up at him. I'm thinking about the girl I used to be, the one who thought she needed someone else to make her whole. And I'm grateful she learned the truth, that she saved herself, that she found people who supported her but never completed her, because she was always complete, always enough, always worthy. Ronan smiled. I'm grateful too. Grateful that when she fell, I was there to catch her. Not to save her, but to stand with her while she saved herself. And they lived happily ever after, Sarah asked. They're still living it, Ronan replied. Every single day. He leaned down, kissed her. Outside, northern lights painted the sky. Inside, a family stood together. Safe, loved, home. And somewhere in Silver Moon territory, Marcus Ashford sat alone in his study, the Alpha title heavy on his shoulders. The void where his bond used to be a constant ache. He watched footage of Sarah's coronation on his computer. Watched her smile. Watched her become everything she was always meant to be. A single tear slipped down his cheek. He had everything he thought he wanted. The title, the power, the respect. But he had lost the only thing that mattered. And he would spend the rest of his life remembering, while Sarah lived her best life, gloriously, beautifully, completely happy, without him.